cause number 24-437 in the interest of Elaine Jones Domagalski et al. In the 451st Judicial District Court of Kendall County, Texas. The court is streaming from Kerr County via Zoom and YouTube. Are there any objections?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Barco, will you please begin the announcements?
Yes. I am Regional Attorney Brian Bartko here on behalf representing the department for today's hearing.
Carol McKetta, family-based supervisor.
Kimberly Rios, family-based caseworker.
You're muted, Jennifer.
Jennifer Harris, attorney for the respondent mother, Michaela Domagalski. She's not here, Your Honor, but I can proceed.
Lucid demands for the father, Alante Jones. He's present, Judge, and we are ready. I believe he's present. I think the Astro's iPhone, that is Mr. Jones. And we are ready.
All right, Mr. Jones, can you hit *6 to unmute and state your name, please?
Alante Jones.
All right, sir, if you could keep your camera on, please.
Yes, sir.
All right, if we can continue with the announcements. Was there anybody else that still needs to announce?
Deborah Fuller, attorney for the children. Your Honor.
Marcus McLemore, Hill Country Casa.
Anyone who's not an attorney or will be giving testimony, please raise your right hand. Mr. Jones, could you please raise your right hand?
And Judge, I believe he has a witness in the room as well.
A witness? Okay.
That we may call, yes.
All right, who's in the room with you, Mr. Jones? Y'all can put your hands down just for a moment.
Mrs. Desiree Flores, the mother of my firstborn child.
Okay. Is she going to be a witness to testify?
Yes, sir. Upon one accusation that was placed upon me.
Okay. Can I see her, please? And can she announce, please?
Yes, sir.
And I need y'all to get into a room with some lights on because it's really dark. That's
yes,
better.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Could you state your name, please?
Desiree Flores.
All right. Is it possible for you and Mr. Jones to be in the camera together?
Alante, come here.
If y'all could set the device down at a table and both of you sit in front of it so I can see both of you, please. All right, that'll work. All right, could you both please raise your right hand? Anybody else who's not an attorney or might be giving a testimony, please raise your right hand. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, do you have any agreement at all, or Mr. Barco?
It is my understanding that the mother has agreed and that the father is asking for a contested hearing.
Okay, Ms. Mance, your client doesn't agree to anything?
No, Your Honor, he would like the children placed with him, and he doesn't agree to the department becoming the temporary managing conservator.
Okay. How much time do you all think you're going to need for a contested hearing?
I have the two witnesses, and I don't believe it'll take me more than 10 to 15 minutes per witness.
Okay. And then Mr. Bartko, Ms. Fuller, Ms. Harris, how much time do you think you all might need in order to put on the evidence you need to put on with the father?
With the father, probably only 20 minutes, but with the department, more than an hour.
I want to make sure I understand then. My understanding was that the department and the ad litem and Miss Harris representing the mother were in agreement. Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Bartko, Ms. Fuller, are you saying the department's going to need an hour to prove up the case on the father?
Probably. Yes, Your Honor.
Y'all think y'all can get it done by 5? It's 3:39.
Yes, Judge. If I go fast.
Okay. Well,
I think I only have 2 witnesses, Judge. I might call the dad and his witness just to speed it up, but I think I only have the caseworker and the supervisor.
okay. Then are we ready to proceed, or we have any housekeeping issues?
I guess the one housekeeping issue for me is I just need to find out if Mr. Jones is actually a presumed father or an alleged father for purposes of this hearing.
It's in my system as alleged. I don't know if that's what anybody else has, but that's what I have. Does that satisfy you, Ms. Fuller, or do you want to hear from Mr. Bartko?
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry, it's going in and out. Can you repeat that?
I was talking to somebody else. It's okay.
Oh, I thought you were exploring. My bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Then, Mr. Bartko, you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. I'll call the Ms. Rios, the caseworker.
All right. She's been sworn.
I'm having a hard time seeing her, Judge. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Ms. Rios, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
And are you the caseworker that was assigned to the case for Elaine and Isaac Jones?
Yes, sir.
And what date were you assigned?
I was assigned a caseworker to this case on, sorry, I'm looking back at my calendar, on Friday, July 26th.
Okay. And did you also work with anyone else on this case? Any other caseworkers?
I worked with the prior caseworker briefly before she left the department, Laura Miller, and then I've also been working closely with my supervisor on this.
Okay. And are you the only caseworker assigned to this case right now?
I am.
Okay. And have you had a chance to talk to the mother, Michaelia, on this case?
Yes, sir, I have.
And what were the reasons that the department got involved with Michaelia?
The department became involved due to concerns for it was alleged that she was drinking and that there was an injury to the child, and the hospital had concerns for mom appearing intoxicated and smelling of alcohol.
Okay. And briefly, this case was in what's called the court-ordered services phase?
Yes, sir, the Texas Family Pilot Program.
Okay. And you were the caseworker involved in that, at least part of it during that stage?
No, sir, I was not.
Okay. And you were involved in and have you had a chance to, and do you know where the mother is right now currently?
Yes, sir, I do.
And is she in some kind of treatment program?
Yes, sir, she is.
Okay. And is it your understanding that the mom has agreed that the department take temporary custody while she works services?
Yes, sir.
And what type of placement are the children in?
Right now, they're in a fictive kinship placement that was changed yesterday.
Okay. And is it your understanding that the mother is aware of who the placement is and that the mother agrees with that?
Yes, sir, that is my understanding. We had that discussion at her parent-child visit yesterday.
Okay.
Sorry, day before yesterday.
Alrighty. And have you had a chance to talk with Michaelia regarding Mr. Alante Jones?
And Judge, I'm going to object to any hearsay statements. I think that I'm not opposed to anything regarding an agreement, but anything that would prejudice my client's position, then I have to oppose that and object.
If it's a statement of the mother, though, it's not hearsay, right?
Well, Judge, she's not here for cross-examination, and it would be a statement against my client's interest. If she were here and I had the ability to cross-examine her, but if we're going to get into statements regarding Mr. Jones' actions or inactions, then she needs to be present for cross-examination.
I don't. Do you have a response to that, Mr. Bartko?
Well, the mother is a party, Judge, and if it's an admission of a party.
Well, if it's an admission against her own, but not an admission against the other respondent. If hearsay statements are going to be used to prove up a removal against Mr. Jones, then she needs to be here for cross-examination.
Your Honor, I don't think there's a requirement that the party that the statement is made by be present, just that they be a party.
I agree. My understanding of a party opponent statement is that it's not hearsay. It's not subject to any hearsay exclusion because it's not hearsay. It's not even, it doesn't fall under the hearsay exceptions. It's just not hearsay. So overruled. You can ask the question and you can answer it.
Ma'am, have you ever had a chance to talk to Michaelia regarding Alante Jones?
Briefly.
And did Michaelia tell you that she believed Alante was the father of both children?
Yes, sir.
And did she ever discuss her concerns regarding her safety or the safety of the children regarding Alante?
She did, but she would not go into detail with me.
What specifically did she say regarding Alante?
Just that there were some things that were going on between the two of them, that they've been on again, off again because of it. And that there was some domestic violence, but she wouldn't say if it was physical or verbal.
And was that issue, the domestic violence, was that part of her service plan for to address that issue? Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't get your answer, Ms. Rios.
No, it was not.
I'm sorry, say it again.
No, it was not part of her service plan.
Thank you.
Okay. And have you had a chance to talk to Alante Jones prior to today?
No, sir, I have not, but I've made attempts.
Okay. And how have you made attempts?
Phone call with the information that I have in my system for him, and that phone appears to be disconnected. I've also tried through what I assume is his father. It says paternal grandfather for the children, Cedric Jones.
Okay. And do you know if the department has asked Mr. Jones to be part of services prior to the removal?
Yes, sir.
And what would the department have liked Mr. Jones to have done?
We would have liked to have seen him complete a family strengths and needs assessment with us to determine what services would be appropriate for him to engage in. Depending on what responses were, it could have been drug and alcohol assessment, drug and alcohol testing, parenting, domestic violence, individual therapy.
Okay. And Do you believe the children would be safe to be placed with Mr. Alante Jones today?
I don't believe I can make that assessment because I have not had communication with him to be able to make that call.
All righty. I will pass the witness for now, Judge.
Ms. Mance?
So
I'm sorry. My mistake. Ms. Harris.
Is Ms. Domagowski cooperating with you since the removal?
Yes, she is.
I'm sorry, cooperating with what?
With the department?
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, she is.
And tell me again where she's at right now.
She's in inpatient treatment at Alpha Home.
And is that what has been asked of her?
Yes.
Is that also what the court has previously ordered for her to do?
Yes.
And does it appear that she is planning to complete her stay at rehab?
At this point, yes, it does appear to be that way.
And who were the kids living with prior to her going to rehab?
Prior to her going into rehab, she was placed, the children were placed in a temporary shelter at St. PJ's.
Before that, were they living with her and her mother?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you know if they have lived with their father at any point in time?
I don't believe so. No, they have not.
Mr. Jones, you can't react to the questions. You can't shake your head or nod your head while somebody else is testifying.
Yes, sir.
If I may, I just want to reiterate that a little bit. My understanding is that they have always lived with mom. I don't know if mom was with Alante for any period of time that they were living together. I don't know that.
And in what town were the children removed from?
From Bernie.
And that's where mother resides?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that where grandmother resides?
That's correct.
Is the goal reunification with mother?
Could you repeat the question?
Is your goal, will the goal be reunification with mother if the department is made TMC?
That is always the hopes. Belong would be the one to make that judgment call, but that is always the hopes, reunification.
No further questions, Judge.
Ms. Mance?
Yes. Could you give me the specific times and dates that you attempted contact with Dad prior to the filing of the 262 removal?
So prior to the 262, I would not have made attempts to contact Mr. Jones. I was assigned this case on July 26th and went on leave that day. And so that following week I was on leave. So when I came back on Monday of this week, I have attempted to call him and his grandfather, specifically to get a parent-child visit scheduled and just to have a discussion with him on where we were with the case.
I'm
So
sorry.
then your testimony is,
Can I interrupt? Mr. Bartko, can you please mute your device?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
so then your testimony is prior to the filing of the 262 removal, you made no attempts to engage father.
No, I have not been assigned long enough to.
And how did you determine then that the children would not be safe in the possession of their father?
Through reading the case, I was able to see that he was not communicating and would not communicate with CPS to engage him in services to determine that decision to make him a placement option.
So then it's your testimony that because he did not respond to a third party's requested communication that he would be a danger to his child or that their safety would be in jeopardy?
We have concerns that we were wanting to address during the family-based case and we were not able to.
And did you ever file a motion to participate in an attempt to serve Mr. Jones?
I had not since being assigned to case, no.
And do you know if any other department employee attempted a motion to participate and served Mr. Jones?
Not to my knowledge.
So then any attempt is just excuse me, I'll withdraw that question. What did you attempt to have a courtesy worker study his home or do a home visit to his home?
I don't know in this case if that was attempted or not.
So you don't have any knowledge that his home is not appropriate?
I do not. My understanding is he would not communicate with any worker to work with them or have his home assessed.
But you haven't reached out to any worker to do so?
Not in this case. I have not.
All right. Thank you. I'll pass, Judge.
Ms. Fuller?
Ms. Rios, did you have an opportunity to review the file prior to the hearing today?
In regards to the affidavit?
Yes.
No, ma'am. I briefly read it, but I did not get all the way through it.
Do you remember what concerns the department had about Mr. Jones?
There were concerns about domestic violence. There were concerns for alcohol and I believe substance use as well for Mr. Jones.
Okay. And in the court-ordered services case, did you have an opportunity to review that prior to you receiving the case and being assigned the caseworker?
The beginning of your question broke up. Could you repeat your question, please?
The court-ordered services case had a different caseworker when it was initiated, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have an opportunity to review those notes prior to you being assigned to the case?
Not prior to. When I was assigned, I went through some documentations to kind of get familiar.
And do you know if that worker attempted to reach Mr. Jones?
That was my understanding.
Okay. And so it really would be your supervisor, Ms. McKetta, would be a more appropriate witness for the court-ordered services case, correct?
Judge, I'm going to object because that actually calls for a legal conclusion.
She had more interaction with all the parties, Ms. Rios.
Let me sustain her objection.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'll sustain that. I think it could get into legal conclusion territory. Just rephrase, Ms. Fuller.
Ms. McKetta had more interaction with the parties than you, Ms. Rios, correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Redirect, Mr. Bartko. You're muted.
Sorry about that, Judge. Nothing at this time, Judge.
Anybody else have any recross for Mr. Rios? Oh, excuse me, Ms. Rios.
Just a quick question.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ms. Rios, just to confirm, domestic violence was not part of Mother's Service Plan in the family-based case.
That was not a court-ordered service, no, ma'am.
So if it weren't a court-ordered service, then is your testimony that any domestic violence was not that there were not sufficient concerns of domestic violence between Mother and Mr. Jones?
Your Honor, I'm going to object because Ms. Rios said that she wasn't even aware of most of the court-ordered services case. She came onto the case and then was immediately on vacation, and so I would object to her even having knowledge. She's already testified she didn't.
If domestic violence was not part of the service plan, then I don't know how they can make that a part of the reason for excluding Mr. Jones or place.
Well, Your Honor, I was on the other case and it was part of the service plan.
Well,
so
she's not a witness, Judge. And
one at a time. The inference that domestic violence wasn't on that service plan, meaning that it wasn't a concern at the time. I understand that's what you're getting at. The only thing is I don't believe that Ms. Rios has the personal knowledge to testify to allow anyone to make that influence. I think it was stated that Ms. McKetta would be the more appropriate, or alluded to that Ms. McKetta would be the more appropriate witness for that. So I understand the inference that you're trying to make. I just don't think that Ms. Rios has the personal knowledge for me to make it.
all right, Judge, I pass.
Okay. Anything else from anybody regarding Ms. Rios?
No,
Okay.
Your-
Next witness, Mr. Barco.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I'll ask, or I'll call Ms. Desiree Flores.
All right,
Yes,
Ms. Flores, you've been sworn, and Mr. Barco is going to ask you some questions. When
Yes,
he's
sir.
done, all of the other attorneys are going to get to ask you questions too.
Yes, sir.
If you hear somebody say objection, don't answer the question, stop talking, and let me rule on the objection, okay?
Yes, sir.
And I'm just going to remind you that you're under oath. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Barco.
Okay, and ma'am, could you please state your full name?
Desiree Flores.
And how are you related to Mr. Alante Jones?
He is the father of my 6-year-old son,
And what's the name of your son?
Levi Jones.
Okay. And are you married to Mr. Alante?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know if Alante is married to anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay. Have you ever met Michaela Domaglaski?
Yes, I have.
And generally, how well do you know her?
We are good. We co-parent with our kids.
Okay. When is the last time you talked to Michaela?
I want to say four months ago. Okay, no, I'm lying. 4th of July. We talked a lot, through social media, but when we came together for the kids was 4th of July.
Okay. Were you aware that Michaela had any issues regarding alcohol or drug use?
Not that I was aware of, because when we were around, she wasn't doing any of those things. It was just, we were with the kids, popping fireworks, going out to eat, it wasn't none of those things. So as far as I know, and as long as I've known her, she was never had that around me or the kids.
Between March and the 4th of July, the last time you saw her, did Michaela say anything about CPS contacting her?
She did tell me about Elaine, the whole situation with Elaine, when she was first born. But other than that, I wasn't aware about no CPS.
And do you drink alcohol, ma'am?
No, sir, I don't.
And have you ever seen Alante drink alcohol?
As long as I've known my baby father, he doesn't drink. He has a lot of sicknesses right now, like asthma and stuff like that. So and eczema. So it's really kind of hard for him to do those type of things, because it will affect his skin and his health. So he stays away from that.
And have you ever participated in a CPS case regarding your children?
A family violence case, yes, sir.
And did that involve Mr. Alante Jones?
No, sir.
And is Levi Jones, is that your son with Alante?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall having a CPS case regarding Levi?
I did child support, but I didn't do a CPS case. I got child support.
Did you ever tell anyone, either from CPS, that Alante and yourself were involved in domestic violence?
No, sir. I've never told them that.
And did you ever tell anyone from CPS that Mr. Jones had broken into your home on an occasion and threatened you physically?
No, like I said, I never had a CPS case for that. It was somebody else that broke up into my house that was a family member of mine. And that's how it became family violence. But my kids were there. Nothing happened. But since my kids were there, they called CPS due to that. And it wasn't even me. It was my wife's case that she got that family violence on her. But because it happened in front of my son, they called CPS. But that case was closed because they couldn't find nothing.
Do you recall doing any services at that time?
No, sir. They closed everything.
Okay. Do you recall what year that was?
2021.
And have you
again, like I said, it was my wife's case. And she's the one that was having to do like the services and stuff like that. And since we're together, they put CPS and they called just because, like I said, my child was in the house when it happened. But everything was my wife. It was my wife. It had nothing with Alante. It was a family member of ours that broke in, and my wife ended up getting involved. And I guess the police or whatever called CPS saying that they felt like my son was being, I guess it was neglect because the family violence happened around him, and they're saying that we were neglecting him. But they closed the case down because they couldn't. It was just an allegation. They allegedly thought that that's what it was, and when it came to find out, they talked to my son and everything, and they closed the case down.
Okay. And do you live with Alante now?
No, sir. But I do be over here a lot, so my child could be around his father. He's a very active father. He do what he needs to do with them.
Have you ever heard Alante threaten Michaelia?
No, I haven't. And if I would have, stopped that right then and there. But Alante don't disrespect females.
Okay.
He's really big on that.
And is Alante paying you child support?
I'm actually in the process of...
I'm going to object to the relevancy of that.
Where are you going with that, Mr. Barco?
I'll just strike that. I'll just move along, Judge. That's fine.
Okay. Sustain.
And I'll pass the witness for now, Judge.
Ms. Harris?
Ma'am, when's the last time you said you saw Ms. Nomadowski? And it's
4th of July. 4th of July.
And you weren't aware that CPS...
All 3 kids were
That's
here.
okay. Oh, okay. Thank you. And you weren't aware that CPS was already involved?
Ma'am, can you repeat that? I'm sorry. It's like you're going in and out. It's like you're far away from the speaker or something.
You weren't aware that CPS was involved with her at that time?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Mr. Barco, can you mute?
And I want to admonish Miss Jones and Mr. Jones and Miss Flores. You can't help each other answer questions. So if you don't know the answer to a question, you can't look at the other person and have them tell you what they think the answer is.
I'm watching my son and he keeps running in and out. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to make sure y'all know you're in the same room together, but can't help each other testify. Go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Do you know if, and just if you know, do you know if Mr. Jones has traveled to the San Antonio area to visit his children?
Yes, I am aware. Yes, I do.
When was that?
I want to say the last time was the week. I want to say a day after 4th of July or before 4th of July. It was around that area right there.
No further questions, Judge.
Ms. Fuller? Oh, no, I think I skipped you, Ms. Mance. Ms. Mance?
No questions, Judge.
Ms. Fuller?
So Ms. Flores, I represent the children, and you understand you're under oath, correct?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so in January of 2022, according to the affidavit, there was allegations that Mr. Jones physically abused your son, Levi. Are you saying that is not true?
That's not true.
Okay. Also allegations that this says you alleged that Alante threatened to kill you and your son.
I don't recall saying that as well.
Okay. And that Alante had assaulted you 2 years prior to the intake in 2022.
I don't recall saying that as well.
Okay.
I never wrote no statement down or nothing. I had talked to somebody.
Miss Flores, just let me ask you the questions, okay? So in this affidavit, and Mr. Jones has a copy, I'm sure, it says that you alleged that your relationship with Mr. Jones was a domestic violence relationship. Are you telling the court today that there was absolutely no domestic violence in your relationship?
Yes, ma'am. I'm telling the court today that there was no domestic violence in the relationship we had.
Okay, and so there was never any criminal charges against Mr. Jones or any police reports that alleged that Mr. Jones was violent?
No, ma'am.
In this affidavit, it also says that you told CPS that he threatened to kill you and put a knife to your throat if you went to the police. Are you saying that didn't happen?
I don't recall saying that.
Are you saying it didn't happen?
It didn't happen. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so anything that relates to Mr. Jones and the violence against you, you're saying today that it never happened.
It never happened.
Okay. And so at the time when this allegation occurred in 2022, did you and your son have to live with your parents?
No, I was staying in I had my own apartment. I was staying with my wife. My wife was paying all the bills and everything. It was me and my son and my wife.
Okay. And were there any allegations against your wife as well? Is that Kanisha Moore?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So she was your wife and there was allegations against her as well based on this affidavit that was filed with the court. So
but it was cleared. It was the case was closed because it was just allegations. It was a word of mouth. So, and they couldn't prove it. So it was no, you know what I'm saying? The case was closed within a few days after they came and, looked at my apartment and everything and investigated.
Okay, but Ms. Flores, the affidavit says the allegations came from you. So it says you said that you were assaulted. He put a knife to your throat. He threatened to kill you. He physically abused your son. You made the allegations based on this affidavit.
Judge,
So,
only been asked and answered.
Yeah, I'll pass this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, and I'll sustain that objection. Okay. Any redirect, Mr. Barco?
No, Your Honor.
Any recross for Ms. Flores?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Next witness, Mr. Bartko.
Yes, the supervisor, Carol.
Ms.
Machetta?
Machetta. Now, Ms. Flores is not going to testify anymore. Is she subject to recall by anybody?
No, Judge, I don't think I'll recall.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Then Ms. Flores, I'm going to excuse you and I want to see Mr. Jones in the camera, okay? You're
Yes.
excused.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. All right.
Sir.
Okay. Mr. Jones, if you want to turn that device the other way, then we won't be seeing you sideways anymore. There we go. Perfect. You can just set that somewhere and keep it still. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. All right. Ms. Machetta, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Judge. Sorry, I'm having a lot of issues. Can I leave my camera off? It says low bandwidth.
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Did you take the oath earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bartko, you may proceed.
Yes, Carol, can you hear me? This is Brian, the regional attorney from Houston.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Okay. And are you the supervisor that's been overseeing the Elaine and Isaac Jones case?
Yes, sir.
And have you been the supervisor since the department received an intake?
I've been the supervisor of this entire family-based case, yes.
Okay. And have you had a chance to talk to Michaelia, the mother,
Yes.
during this case? And what were your concerns, briefly, for Michaelia?
So major concerns, of course, for alcoholism, marijuana use, mental health, and domestic violence with Alante Jones.
And did you ever have a conversation with Michaelia regarding Alante Jones?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall when that was?
Yes, the most recent conversation is when she was in detox this past Sunday. So what was that, August 4th, about 10 a.m.
Okay. Now, that instance is not on your affidavit,
No, sir.
right? That was afterwards. Okay. And there's a section on there, June 5th, 2024. It starts, Michaelia was very distressed. Was that a conversation that you had with Michaelia?
No, sir.
Okay. And what concerns did Michaelia tell you regarding Alante?
So she's personally told me Sunday when we spoke that her and Alante were speaking every day, multiple times sometimes when she was in detox. And I expressed.
Judge, I cannot.
Yeah,
hear.
it was breaking up. I don't know if anyone else heard anything, Judge.
Miss Machetta, that entire answer was garbled. We didn't get it. Miss Machetta, are you there? Miss Machetta, can you hear me? All right, I think we lost her connection to a point I'm gonna have to remove her and she's gonna have to come back in. It's usually the only fix for this.
Okay.
Hello.
While we wait for her to come back in, does anybody need a 2 or 3 minute break?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, the supervisor, Carol, she's on my phone. She said she was having issues earlier in the day with your docket. And did you try to have her, she's on my phone now. She's on speakerphone. Carol, could you say something? See if they can hear you.
Yeah, hi, Judge Falkenberg. I'm hoping you can hear me.
I can't hear her, and I'd
Well,
ask
let me turn
that she call in, Judge, rather than be on the phone. She should be able to call in on her own phone.
Judge, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Will this work for everyone?
Well, I don't, Miss Mance, what's your issue with her doing it this way?
Well, now that I can hear her, I don't have an issue, but before it was like very, very faint.
Okay. All right. As long as we can hear you, okay, we can proceed this way.
Okay. We'll try. And Carol, can you still hear me?
Yes, I believe I was answering about my last conversation with Michaela.
Yeah, I don't think we got any of that. If you can repeat your answer.
Yes, sir. So I spoke to Michaela August 4th while she was in detox. So it was Sunday about 10 a.m. And I asked her if she had any contact with Alante. And she said, yes, they're speaking every day, sometimes multiple times a day while she was in detox. And I asked her if that was a good idea because she has previously told me that he yells at her and calls her names over the phone. And she had said, you know, the conversations had been appropriate, so she was speaking to him over the phone.
Has Michaela ever told you that she was scared of Alante?
No, not specifically that, no.
And what is the department's concerns? Now, you don't think it's appropriate for the mom to have possession of the two children, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is your understanding of the whereabouts of the mom?
She's in inpatient treatment at Alpha Home.
And has the department asked Mr. Jones to participate in services?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Has the department, you or a caseworker, contacted Mr. Jones to ask him if he wants to participate in services?
Yes.
And what has been Mr. Jones's response?
He's adamantly denied to work services, denied anybody seeing his home. We got a courtesy worker up there in Dallas to meet with him, and he refused. Every family-based case, he's refused to work with us.
And specifically, what are your concerns regarding Mr. Jones to be the placement of the two children?
My biggest concern is when we had the courtesy worker assigned to him back on June 19th, Rebecca McKenzie with CPS in Dallas wanted to meet with him and see his home and assess him.
I'm gonna object unless she has personal knowledge. If she's gonna testify as to the courtesy worker's statements, then that's hearsay.
Ms. Makeda, in order to convey this information, do you have to testify to the statements made by the courtesy worker, or can you sum up based on your personal knowledge?
As far as that conversation, I do not have personal knowledge of it.
Okay, well, can you convey what your concern is as the supervisor on the case without getting into the hearsay?
Yes, sir. So in this case alone, there's been 7 attempts to make contact with Dad and offer him services and get him engaged, and that has not been completed because of his refusal.
Do you think if Mr. Jones would participate in services, that would help the mom in progress toward her services?
Yes.
Did Michaela ever tell you that anything Alante Jones was doing or saying that was interfering with her compliance with the court-ordered services?
Interfering? No, I guess not interfering. No.
Okay. And if you can just summarize what your assessment or the department's concerns are regarding placement of the two children with Alante.
Yes, sir. I believe at this point he needs to allow us access to his home and to meet with somebody to be assessed. When I spoke with Michaela on Sunday, this isn't the first time she has personally told me that he's an alcoholic, he drinks more than her, and he has beat her on many occasions in front of the children.
And do you think those issues would have to be addressed before the department would reconsider Mr. Jones as an appropriate placement?
Yes.
And do you believe the department has made all reasonable efforts to avoid taking emergency custody and filing that petition that was recently filed?
Absolutely.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Harris.
I'm sorry, Judge, you called me?
Yes, ma'am. Do you have any questions for Ms. McCutcheon?
Yes, I do. If Mr. Jones had cooperated with you previously, could the children have possibly been placed with him?
Yes, ma'am, possibly.
So it was his decisions that meant the children stayed in a home that was deemed dangerous, correct?
Correct.
Are there any CPS cases or investigations that you discovered for Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Do those cause concern about his ability to care for the children?
Yes.
Do you consider it a problem that Mr. Jones did not take steps to remove his children from a dangerous situation?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
Does it cause you concern that Mr. Jones did not take steps to remove his children from a dangerous situation?
Yes.
Do any of the prior CPS investigations tend to corroborate Ms. Domagowski's claims of physical abuse?
Yes.
No further questions, Judge.
Ms. Mance.
Yes. Do you agree that domestic violence was not part of the mother's service plan in the family-based case?
In the initial service plan, that is correct.
Was there more than one service plan?
We didn't find out about the domestic violence till early June. When
Okay,
she got
my
back from a
question
trip
is, was there more than one service plan?
There was not one more than service plan completed.
Okay, so the only service plan did not include domestic violence.
Correct.
What were the 7 attempts, time and date, that the department made?
I don't have the times on me, but I have the dates. Are you ready?
Yes.
May 16th, June 13th, June 19th, June 20th, and then 2 calls July 26th.
And these were all phone calls?
Yes.
And what was the time and date that the courtesy worker attempted contact with Dad?
Again, I don't have the time, but that was June 19th.
All right, thank you. I'll pass, Judge.
Ms. Fuller?
Ms. McKenna, you said that every family-based case he refused services. How many family-based cases were there?
This was the third.
Okay, so you've been attempting to engage Mr. Jones in family-based services for 3 cases, correct?
Correct.
And so he's been aware that his children have been in this dangerous situation with the mother throughout 3 family-based cases.
Correct.
And this goes back to when? What year?
One sec. Let's see. Our first involvement would have been, was it 2021?
Okay. So for Mr. Jones today to say, I want my children, he never took that opportunity since 2021 to take his children and remove him from this dangerous situation.
Correct.
And as far as you know, there's no custody orders or anything out there, correct?
There is not.
And so Mr. Jones could have, when he came to see his kids, he could have taken them with him. Correct? He had equal rights to his children?
Mr. Barco, you muted yourself. So we're not hearing. There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know how that happened.
I muted you because there was a lot of background noise.
Oh, I see.
Ms. McKenna?
Yes, I'm here.
So, Mr. Jones, like you stated, has been aware and been asked to participate since 2021. Did at any time he take his children with him?
He did not.
And per his, I guess, the other mother of his children, she stated he was just here in July 4th, correct?
Yes, I heard her say that.
And per the affidavit, Ms. Domagowski's been drinking continuously throughout the court-ordered services case, which led to the removal.
Correct.
So Mr. Jones had to be aware of that if he was here visiting her and his children on July 4th.
Judge, that calls for speculation. I object.
I'll strike that, Your Honor.
Sustained.
In regards to what efforts, did you do any background checks on people to see about supervision of the children in the Dallas area?
Yes, we did.
And and who did you do background checks on?
So I was asked to look into Cedric, which I believe is Alante's father.
Okay, and what happened there?
There was hits on his criminal history, and then I was told that they lived together.
I'm going
Hang on.
to object because I believe this calls for a hearsay response, and unless she's got personal knowledge. Also, Judge, as to the relevancy, Cedric Jones is not on trial here.
Where are we going with the line of questioning for Mr. Jones at this particular moment?
Your Honor, I'm just reading the affidavit and I was trying to confirm who Cedric Jones was so I can get to my next question.
All right.
And Your Honor, I think it also goes to reasonable efforts by the department.
I do think that there is a reasonable efforts relevancy to it, but I don't know that we need to go into exactly what's on his criminal history regarding whether he was fit or not fit for a placement. I think it's enough for me to know that the department made that effort and just to identify him. So ask your question as to identifying information, and then let's go to the next one.
And in regards to Mr. Jones being the father of Alante Jones, was there a referral regarding sexual abuse of a child in 2010 based on this affidavit? And the allegation was sexual abuse of Julian Beeman by Alante Jones and Cedric Jones, correct?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. It might have been Cedric Jr.
But the allegations were found reason to believe based on this affidavit you wrote.
And again, Judge, we're getting into third parties. She's not even sure who they are, and some pretty prejudicial allegations about people that aren't even part of the suit.
Well,
the allegations was about Mr. Jones, Alante Jones, and Cedric Jones. It's in the
everything she's asking about is in the affidavit that everybody has.
Yeah.
So it's already part of the case file. I do agree that we don't need to go too much further into those details for me to understand what you're getting at. So let's move past it and get to where it is you want to go.
Okay. And then the other questions, your statement earlier was that you just became aware of the domestic violence. Did Miss Domagowski tell you that Mr. Jones locked her in a closet?
She did not tell me that.
Okay. Did she tell you that he kicked her in the stomach when she was pregnant?
She did tell me that on Sunday, August 4th.
Okay. And so did she also tell you that Mr. Jones has anger issues?
Yes.
And do you know who Mr. Jones lives with?
His father, Cedric.
Okay. And so you've established that Mr. Cedric Jones can't be a supervisor, correct?
Correct.
So is there any other efforts you could have made to in order to prevent this removal of these two children?
I don't believe so.
You think you've done everything humanly possible to try to engage the father in services to see if he would be appropriate for placement?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Any other questions for Ms. McKetta?
I do not, Your Honor.
Just one quick question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Mercado, you said that there have been 3 prior family-based, correct?
Yes.
But they did not rise to the level of removal until July.
Correct.
All right, thank you. I'll pass, Judge.
All right. Any other witnesses, Mr. Bartko?
No, not for the department, Your Honor.
Okay. Excuse me for just you could go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I passed the witness, Judge.
Okay. I don't think anybody else had any questions for Mr. McKetta. Did you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
So the state rests?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Harris, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Mance?
Yes, I call Alante Jones.
All right. Mr. Jones, can you please unmute?
Yes, sir.
It's just like with Ms. Flores. If you hear somebody say objection, then you got to stop talking until I can rule on the objection. Okay? And I'll remind you that you're under oath. Go ahead, Ms. Mance. And also, it's 4:40. I have to be out of this courthouse by 5.
All right, so let's very brief, Judge.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jones, state your full name for the court.
Alante Jones.
And are you stating on the record that you are the father of Elaine and Isaac?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Do you request a paternity test for either child?
No, ma'am, I do not.
And you've heard the allegations. Did the department reach out to you to examine your home?
No, ma'am.
So those 7 times that they stated they attempted to call you, did they ever make contact?
No, ma'am. I've spoken to Miss Fuller before through my 903 number, and I've spoken to you through that number. So I don't see how I wouldn't have answered anybody else.
And you and I conferred last week and today as well.
Yes, ma'am. And I actually told you that nobody contacted me about contacting my father.
And are you asking that you and your home be studied for placement of these 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
And will you do everything that's required of you to have them unified with you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. I'll pass, Judge.
Mr. Barco. You muted.
I think I muted myself instead of unmuted. Mr. Jones, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Have you signed any paperwork regarding the 2 children, Elaine or Isaac, either at the hospital or anywhere else, to admit that you're the dad?
So Isaac, I am on his birth certificate, and Elaine, I had to sign hers virtually because she was born in San Antonio.
Okay. Do you recall ever going to court or anything to get child custody or child support or established paternity?
No, sir.
Okay, but you're admitting today under oath you're the dad of both of these 2 children.
100% positive.
Okay. And when did you first become aware Michaela was involved this year in 2024 with Child Protective Services?
I was pretty brought to I knew probably the next day after she found out, if not the same day.
And do you recall what month that was?
That she told me, I would have to say, is it sometime in May?
Okay. To the best of your recollection, May-ish, May, June?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What did Michaela specifically say about CPS?
She just told me that an anonymous person had called CPS, and she just told me the allegations that were made. And besides that, I didn't hear anything else.
Did she ever discuss any issues that she may have had with alcohol?
So yes, whenever she lived with me in 2021 through 2022 with Elaine, that was before Isaac, I tried getting her in a rehab right down the street of where I stay. I'll see if I can get that paperwork for you. I tried getting her in a rehab right here on Gannon Lane and Westmoreland Road. She went twice and then stopped going.
Okay. Did that concern you?
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay. And do you recall CPS being involved with Michaela when Elaine was born?
Yes, sir.
Did anyone from CPS offer you services at that time?
No one offered me any services. I can't put my finger on it. I believe it was Elaine that whenever they needed to close out the case, me and Michaela needed to go to this facility in DeSoto, and we both did drug tests, and they both came back clean. So that was the only thing that I did for that case.
Okay. Do you drink alcohol?
No, sir.
And do you use any illegal drugs?
No, sir.
And are you on any prescriptions?
For my asthma medicine, allergies, and eczema, things of that nature, like albuterol.
Any painkillers or anything like
No,
that?
sir.
Do you think the children were safe with Michaela this year in 2024?
I started picking up that she might be going through postpartum and that things might be going a little rough for her. So in about March or April, her mother had brought them up here. And that's when me and her mom, Melissa Domagowski, had a conversation. And she kind of was like, hey, well, it's a little rough on her. And I told Melissa to give me the kids, in which they kept saying they didn't want to. And considering the kids was already in their possession, I know how the law works, that so long as you have the kids in your hands, in your possession, I can't do anything.
Yeah. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Harris.
Mr. Jones, when did you speak with Miss Fuller?
I believe I just got Mrs. Fuller's number maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. She's the attorney for the kids, right?
Yes. You remember speaking with her?
Yes, ma'am. I recently just got her number like 2 weeks ago, and I've been asking people around for her.
And why did you tell her that you didn't want to be involved in a CPS case?
I never said that I did not want to be involved in the CPS case. Whenever people presented me the options of classes, I always said, yes, I do not mind doing classes, but I don't have any information upon the case. So I would be walking and taking these classes blindly, in which the first thing that I've ever gotten from CPS from anything is a notice of removal from my children. So that was my main cause for concern, that there was no letters, mail, or anything being sent to me, yet everybody tried to paint me as a villainous person.
You've heard about all the testimony today about people speaking with you and reaching out to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So are you saying that all of that is false?
Yes, ma'am. I have 2 working phones. So for someone, I don't want to place any names on anybody, but for someone to say that they're unable to contact me, or I even have the proof in the pudding of somebody said they tried to contact me this weekend, but I just told my lawyer that that's not the case. It's in text proof. Okay.
And how many times have you reached out to CPS?
I've tried a lot. I can actually provide screenshots if you would like for me to, of me consistently asking for information upon the case. If you would like for me to.
Who were you asking?
I forgot this lady's name. I know her first name is Laura.
That's all the information you have?
These people don't really. So if I send you the screenshot that I am also available to send my attorney, they basically said that considering that I'm not a name listed on the case, I'm just the father, and that they don't have to tell me anything unless it's court appointed.
And where are you today?
I'm in Dallas, Texas.
And when is the last time that you saw your children?
July 4th. I came and I met Melissa halfway, and we came back to Dallas and we popped firecrackers at a barbecue. Elaine and Isaac got to meet and talk to their other siblings.
And you were aware, sir, were you aware at that time that CPS was involved with Michaela?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you saw your children and heard that CPS was involved, did you ask Michaela for information on who to contact?
Oh, yes, ma'am. I've always asked Michaela information, and I can also provide screenshots upon that to prove as well.
And so whose information did she provide you?
Michaela doesn't provide me with certain people of information, and I have to continue texting her and calling her, and she doesn't tell me the full truth on things. So that way, it's kind of hard for me to get in contact with people if we're 270 miles away.
Okay, and so you saw your children, you knew CPS was involved, and you still left without your children?
Considering they're in a CPS case, I don't exactly think that it was the smartest move for me to just like rip the kids out of daycare, to rip the kids out of their, like, it's not a very smart move by how y'all were already positioning me.
Would it have been smart to talk to somebody at CPS?
Yes, ma'am. And I've tried multiple times. Even when I ask the people on the phone, on whoever's trying to call me, and I'm like, okay, so can I get my kids? Everybody's always stepped around it and been like, that's not how this works.
And who are these people that you've spoken with?
You just named one of them Mrs. Fuller, and then Mrs. Laura as well.
And who is Miss Laura? Who is she employed by?
I do not know. I believe she's a supervisor. She might have quit. I don't know who a lot of these people are. If I get a text message from a 210 number, I know it's San Antonio. I'll respond. I'll answer the call. But besides that, I'm not really getting any names.
And have you ever insulted Miss Domagowski in front of the children?
No, ma'am. The roles was actually very completely reversed. One of the main reasons on why she had to leave my house and why our relationship.
Hang on. We're going to be here way too long. She asked you if you've ever done that. It's a yes or no answer.
No, sir.
Right. If, as you allege, she insulted you in front of the children, why did you believe it was safe for her to care for the children outside of your presence?
I didn't. I've tried gaining custody multiple times. Like I said, they live on a very deserted islandish, in Bernie.
What court did you file paperwork in?
Considering I'm already in a full load, I tried to go the co-parenting route first.
How's that worked out?
Ma'am?
How has that worked out?
That's kind of the confusing part, because if I show you our text messages, she's telling me she loves me, miss me, and can't wait till we're a couple again. But then she's telling y'all something different.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Fuller.
So, Mr. Jones, I spoke with you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
During the family-based case.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you say you save your text messages. So can you confirm for the court, and I have it in front of me, so I want you to look at your phone and confirm. We spoke on July 10th, so almost a month ago.
If you may give me a moment to get my other cell phone. Thank you. Okay.
It was 210.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Wednesday, July 10th.
July 10th. And at the end of that text messages, after we talked, I said, if you have further questions, do not hesitate to call me. That's what it says, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And it says, I was appointed to represent your children.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was on July 10th. You never called me again until the day your children were removed, correct?
No, ma'am.
Look at your phone. Look at your phone. When's your next time they called me?
Whenever the children were removed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You didn't call me until they were removed, which was 20 days later. So did I actually offer to you to talk to me about your children?
Did you offer? Yes. Did you make it a comfortable, safe space? No. You came on the phone.
Okay, stop.
Disrespectful.
Stop. I don't have time for that, and I'm not going to listen to it.
See.
Either she offered it or she didn't.
Okay, Mr. Jones, are you willing to engage in services?
What? So when you say services, like
parenting classes, like drug and alcohol assessment, like counseling, are you willing to engage in any services to ensure that your children could be placed in a safe home?
Yes, ma'am. I'll take any measures that I need to.
Okay, so when CPS said, we want you to do services in 3 prior family-based cases, they're saying you said you wouldn't do them, but today you're going to do them, correct?
In 3 prior cases, like I said, the first case, they only asked me to drug test at the end, and I did pass, and they released her from CPS. In Isaac's case, they didn't even consider me nor talk to me at all.
Okay, I'm just saying what their testimony was. They offered you services, you said no, but today you're saying I'll do services, correct?
I always told them yes. I just would like
it's
more
yes
information.
or no. Will you do services today, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. And you're living with your dad. Does he have criminal history?
I'm unaware.
Okay. You don't know if he has criminal history?
I don't pry into that that.
Do you have criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are you on probation?
No, ma'am.
What was your criminal history?
That was in 2017.
What was the charge?
Theft of property.
Okay. And are you willing to do a hair follicle test, drug test to ensure that you're not using drugs or alcohol?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you work full time?
Yes, ma'am. I have a lot of ways that I get my money. I have kids.
Do what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I have a lot of ways that I get my bread. Like, I have kids.
You have, okay, I'm not understanding. Do you have a job?
He's saying that he's got multiple sources of income, from what I understand.
Okay.
And that he has children's support.
Okay. Have you ever provided support for Isaac and Elaine?
Ma'am?
Have you ever provided support for Isaac and Elaine?
I'm going to object because this is not relevant. This is the same line of the child support. We're just saying this, asking the same thing over and over that's already been either answered or objected to.
Sustained. We've got to get moving. They're going to kick me out of this courthouse. So we've got to come to a resolution.
Okay. Mr. Jones, do you have anyone that your children could be placed with that will pass a CPS background check or a criminal background check?
I can do further searches in my family.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Pass the witness.
All right. Any other evidence or witnesses that anybody needs to call for something that I haven't heard yet?
No, not from the department, Judge.
No, sir.
Okay. Let's hear some quick arguments. I'll start with the department.
Judge, you've heard the testimony from all the witnesses. The mother has agreed that it's not that the department's taking emergency temporary custody. It's been stipulated. And I'll leave it up to the court to weigh the credibility of the witnesses about the department's reasonable efforts to engage Mr. Jones and their concerns about why the department does not feel it would be appropriate that he be the placement today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Harris?
Your Honor,
Sorry, Mr.
My client is in agreement today for the department to be named temporary managing conservator. She has approved of the fictive 10 placement that Belong has worked really hard to find for the kids. That allows the children to stay in town near a mother who is already doing her services, near the grandmother that has cared consistently for the children, and extended family. So we are asking that the court make the department TMC, my client TPC, set up for visits for her. Additionally, while she's in Alpha Home, have video visits. She needs some encouragement. This is a tough go, and she's making some really hard work. And so I want her to know what's at the end of the road, and that the children continue in their current placement.
Ms. Mance?
Judge, I don't believe the department has met their burden regarding any domestic violence. There were 3 family-based cases, and never was domestic violence part of the mother's service plan. So I don't think they've met that burden. I'd ask that they study dad's home for placement, and that he not be, that a 262 not be granted against him until that is done. Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Fuller.
Your Honor, based on the totality of the affidavit and the testimony in regards to the previous CPS history of Mr. Jones threatening the previous mother with a knife, threatening to kill her, threatening if she went to the police after he allegedly physically abused his child, it's very concerning to me. I tried to engage Mr. Jones back on July 10th. To see if he would be involved because I had serious concerns about the mother. He indicated to me he was not going to do any services. The department has made all reasonable efforts. They had 3 family-based cases, and he was contacted according to their records. I mean, he has 2 phones, so I don't know. Maybe he had a different phone back then, but this has been going on since 2021. CPS has been involved in her life since 2021. These are young children. I'm very concerned about the serious allegations that were in the affidavit from Ms. Flores, although she's denying them today, that the sexual abuse allegations and the allegations that Ms. Domagowski has made in regards to Mr. Jones and the threats that she also has from Mr. Jones. Whether she loves him today and wants to be back with him, that's not my issue. My issue is whether he's going to be able to provide a safe and stable home. So at this time, I'm asking that the court grant the removal. They can look at Mr. Jones and see if his home is appropriate, but the children need to remain in the care of the department until a determination can be made that Mr. Jones is clean and sober, his home is safe and appropriate. And we can't do that within a day. And I'm concerned about the seriousness of the domestic violence allegations, to be honest, Cheryl.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Mr. McLemore, anything from CASA?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. The issue that we have with the mother is that, I mean, she's agreed to work services. She's been served. Mr. Jones is here. He's appeared in this suit, but he's not agreeing. And we've heard a lot of evidence as to the reasonable efforts that the department alleges they made to avoid a removal in this case. They had Ms. McKetta testified to very specific dates and times, or not times, excuse me, dates where they tried to contact Mr. Jones. And, you know, some of that testimony was corroborated by other things that I heard. And there's a lot of history here as well. There's previous cases. So just sitting here right now listening to this without somebody having been able to go to the home of Mr. Jones, get in there, see what was going on. The testimony was that they tried. Mr. Jones says that nobody contacted him, but yet he was also able to pull up a text from Ms. Fuller from mid-July. Ms. Flores testified that everything that she was able to recall was something good about Mr. Jones or Ms. Domagowski, but when she was confronted with anything that could have been detrimental to his case, she couldn't recall. She didn't remember. So, I mean, there's some credibility issues that we've got right here. The thing about it is that Mr. Jones is in Dallas. He's been there for a long time. His kids have not been with him. He's testified that he's willing to work services. He's willing to do, in his words, whatever it takes to get his kids back. I might be paraphrasing a little bit. So this court is here with this evidence looking at it from a standpoint of, well, we can do exactly that. We can put him in a situation where if he's amenable to the department coming to his house and running a study on him and anybody else that lives there, including his dad, we can determine whether or not it's a safe and appropriate home. But he hasn't given anybody the opportunity to do that at this point in time. So I can't send children somewhere I know nothing about when, as Ms. Fuller stated, the department has worked really hard to find a fictive kin placement within their community where they can stay, and they're not going to have to get moved across the state without any information. So based on those things, I think it's obvious that Ms. Domogowski understands what she needs to work on. And she's been the primary caregiver, and she's going to rehab. So with that situation, the court finds that there's been sufficient evidence to satisfy a person of ordinary prudence and caution that there was a danger to the physical health or safety of the child caused by an act or failure to act of the person entitled to possession, and for the child to remain in the home is contrary to the welfare of the child. Court finds the urgent need for protection required the immediate removal of the child, and reasonable efforts consistent with the circumstances and providing for the safety of the child were made to eliminate or prevent the child's removal, and reasonable efforts have been made to enable the child to return home, but there's a substantial risk of a continuing danger if the child is returned home. Going to approve the agreement made between the mother and the other parties as to her services and going to rehab and the visitation that she might have while she's there. And I'm going to name both parents temporary possessory conservators of the child. I'm going to name the Department of Family Protective Services the temporary managing conservator of the child. I'm going to defer medical support and child support at this time. I'm going to allow the or order that the children remain in the placement that has been secured for them, and they're not to be moved without a further order of the court, not even by agreement. If they're going to be moved, I want to know about it. I want to know what's going on. I'm going to order that the parties hold a family group conference to develop family plans of service that are narrowly tailored to address the concerns that brought the children into the care of the department. I'm going to order Belong to study Mr. Jones's home and to study anybody that's in that home with him. And Mr. Jones, that means that you've got to open up your home, your father's home. If that's where you're living and you want these kids placed with you, you're going to have to let people in there to see that it's safe. If you keep telling them they can't come in, you're not going to do these things, then it's not going to happen. I understand you have a difference of opinion. I've heard the evidence. Right now, I don't have enough evidence. I haven't been able to ascertain whether that home is safe or not, so I can't place the kids there with you today. But I'm going to order them to study that home, to study you, to study anybody else that lives there, to determine if it's safe, and then bring that evidence back before me so that I can make a decision on whether or not the children need to be placed with you.
Your Honor, can we make sure that everyone has his phone number? If that's an issue, I was able to get, he called me first. So I have a good number. Obviously, Ms. Mance has a good number. We need to make sure that the people at CPS have a good number, because if that's the issue, we just need to make sure that he said he had 2 phones. So we need to know which one they need to call.
Well, you have the one, you were able to get a hold of him.
Yeah.
He shared it with you. So you share it with the parties, and everybody's got his phone number. If he doesn't answer the phone, he doesn't answer the phone. I want to make sure that number, Mr. Jones, if you're going to be involved in this case, then people have to be able to get a hold of you. I'm going to order that Mr. Jones submit to a hair follicle test. Today's Wednesday, 8/7, no later than Friday, 5 p.m. Now, Mr. Jones, I'm already making the orders that I'm making. If you test positive, you test positive. It's not going to change the orders that I've made. It's just going to help me understand if I'm dealing with a drug issue in this case as well. So I don't want you to avoid that drug test thinking that I'm going to come down on you for whatever the result might be. I'm making a decision today. I just want to know where you are with it. I want to know if that's an issue we need to address. I think I've made all the orders I need to make at this point in time. And
Judge,
yes.
I didn't hear anything about Dad's visits.
Oh, I wrote it down, but I didn't say it. As long as, is he asking to be adjudicated today?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. Is there any objection? All right. Well, based on the evidence I heard today, I do believe that Mr. Jones is not only asking, he said he's 100% positive that he is the biological father of both of these children. And there's been no evidence presented to the contrary. He stated he was on both birth certificates. One of them he signed, the other one was virtual. And I believe that the evidence shows that Mr. Alante Jones is the father of Isaac Jones, born June 16th, 2023, and Elaine Jones Domogowski, a female born October 9th, 2021. I will adjudicate him for all intents and purposes, and rights and duties under the family code, subject to the custodial, the conservatorship, designation I just made in this case, naming the department and belong as a temporary managing conservator. So he's been adjudicated, and I'm going to order that he have visitation. The kids it's a long way apart. I'm not going to put kids on the road every week. So we're going to start it once a month for 2 hours, a halfway point, somewhere between San Antonio and Dallas in a public place. That's the best way we can do it right now. We come back for our status hearing September 11th, 2024 at 10:30. September 11th, 2024 at 10:30. We'll discuss visitation at the status hearing. Mr. Jones, I know you said you've got several ways of making your money and that you've got kids to support. I just need you to tell me yes or no. Can you afford an attorney to represent you in this case?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you asking the court to continue the court-appointed attorney that was appointed to you at the outset of this case?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are you receiving any governmental assistance at this time?
No, sir.
All right.
I mean, like, Michaela has me on her food stamp case just so the kid can have food, but I understand.
That's enough. That's what I needed to know. I'm going to find that you remain indigent, that mom remains indigent, and keep their attorneys on the case. I'm sorry I'm getting tongue-tied. It's been a long day. I have to admonish the parents that the state of Texas gives parents of CPS cases 12 months to demonstrate that you can provide a safe, stable, violence, and drug-free home for your child. In the event you cannot do that, your rights to your child are subject to restriction as they are now or termination. Last thing I want to say, and then I've got to get out of here. Mr. Jones, and I know Ms. Domogowski's not here to hear it, but she's in rehab or headed that way. So she's obviously in the headspace where she knows she needs to do something. I heard what you said today, and I listened to you, and I listened to Ms. Flores, and I just had some concerns about some of the things I heard. That doesn't mean that you can't work in this case and do what you need to do in order to provide your children with not only the father that they need, but two, maybe you can at some point be the place where they live. We don't know what's going to happen with Ms. Domogowski. So maybe that can be you, but you're going to have to address these concerns because this case is in front of me, and I've heard enough to know that I've got some concerns. And I'm not going to let go of those until I see that you're willing to work on those. And yes, if you're willing to work on those concerns, then we can get somewhere and we can make some progress. And the first thing is making sure everybody has your phone number and making sure everybody knows that you're open to being studied. And if the house you're living in doesn't work, then find another house. Find something that's more appropriate. Okay? Do what you have to do. But if you can hold multiple jobs, then you can address these things, you can improve yourself, and you can have a relationship with your children. And I hope that's what you decide to do. Mr. Bartko, is there anything else that I need to address?
Not that I can think of, Judge.
Okay. Well, thank you all for your time and your service. I'll see you back on September 11th at 10:30. And Mr. Jones, I hope to hear and see good things on that day. Sir. Okay. I believe in you.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. I'll circulate an order starting tomorrow, Judge.
Okay. All parties are excused.